The Nissan Ariya has arrived in Ireland. It has, but you can't quite have one yet because it's been so successful. The initial allocation is sold out for 2022. It's not a bad problem for Nissan Ireland to have. It also shows that they priced it really keenly. It started at under €50,000, which put it up against the likes of the Volkswagen ID4, ID5, and of course the Skoda Enyaq.
Take a moment, enjoy the calm. You could be stuck on the N7 with two teething toddlers, but we don't do stress at the AA. We do roadside rescue, and our trained mechanics fix 8 out of 10 problems at the roadside. Buy online now at theAA.ie. Relax. Yellow and black have got your back.
It isn't just the pricing that has made the Ariya popular, of course. This is a good-looking electric SUV. Nissan calls it a coupe crossover, which is perhaps stretching it a bit, but it is curvy, it's got a sloping rear roof, and lots of lovely detailing. The initial launch cars all were shown in this kind of copper bronze colour, which very few people in Ireland are going to buy, but it's nice to see it in a simple colour like white and still looking really good. As you can see, it's quite a big car. In fact, it's considerably larger than the Nissan Qashqai, so that puts it into perspective. It's along the same lines as the Volkswagen ID4 and Skoda Enyaq and Hyundai Ioniq, etc. Now, despite that sloping roofline, it's also quite practical. I'll show you what it's like inside in a minute and in the boot, but it is comparable to all of those cars. While we have a new Nissan badge on the front, as is the trend, it gets a Nissan word mark across here, no actual Nissan badge. Underneath that and behind an electric tailgate is a decent sized boot. It holds 466 litres according to Nissan, and there is a movable floor, so you can keep it for putting charging cables underneath, and in fact if it's in its higher level and put the back seats down, it's all one big long flat floor. You can, if you want to, drop that floor and then have a larger volume for big suitcases, etc. When those rear seats are in use, there's plenty of space. As you can see, there's a completely flat floor here. This centre console, it can electrically slide forward and back from a switch up front, so assuming that it's up forward, an adult can easily sit in the middle here. As you'd expect, there are Isofix mounting points for child seats and the outer two seats, but I reckon you might be able to fit some child seats into the middle here. Other than that, this is the high-spec Evolve model, so it's got this lovely leather upholstery. It's also got this panoramic sunroof. That does rob some headroom, but as you can see, it's not too bad. I'm about 5'8", 5'9", so somebody up to 6 foot will sit back here without too much difficulty. Legroom is good as well. You can stretch out your legs, and this is me sitting behind my usual driving position to give you an indication of how much space there is. Rear passengers are very well catered for. There's nets in the backs of the front seats. Also, you get air vents here, and you have heated seats, in fact, these outer two positions. There's also a USB-A and a USB-C port for charging up devices. And if you think the rear seat accommodation is pretty generous, wait till you sit up front in the Ariya. It's pretty spacious, but that's actually not the most impressive thing about it. What stands out is the quality. The materials used in here are a step above what we're used to from Nissan, and indeed what we're used to from the mass market in general. It's very comparable to the premium market. And given that the car was priced at a similar level to the rivals I mentioned earlier, that's really surprising. Now, I will say this particular model is the higher spec one, so it gets a lot of extra equipment which enhances the experience. But even so, it stands out as being high quality and a really nice place to sit. Before we get to the switch gear, I think it's worth mentioning the digital dashboard. It's all the rage at the moment, so Nissan has it here as well, where behind one housing you have a touchscreen and you have the digital instruments in front of you. It works well, it's crisp and quick to respond, and it's really intuitive to use as well. As you'd hope, there is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay included. My favourite part of the interior is below the touchscreen. It's got this swathe of lovely tactile material, and built into it seamlessly are the controls for the air conditioning and everything. There's haptic feedback and it works fantastically well, and it looks really well too. Underneath those controls and hidden away is a storage compartment. You press a button on the centre console here. Again, this is haptic feedback on this, and it smoothly pops out. Within, there's plenty of space for phones, wallets, etc. And if somebody did break into the car, they're unlikely to even find it. Again, it closes up to touch the button. There's a lot going on in the center console, actually. Behind the drive selector here, there are drive mode buttons, and there's an e-pedal button as well. I'll talk more about those when we're driving in a minute. This whole console actually electrically slides back and forward. So if you want it all the way forward for some reason, give more space at the back, you can do that. Likewise, put it all the way back, and it means you have this big wide open space in the front here. The high quality feel of the Ariya continues out on the road. Actually, it's super silent, really quiet. All electric cars are, obviously, but the Ariya seems to isolate its electric motor and all its other workings from the driver and passenger better than most. Notice that this car has double glazing on the side here, and that helps it stay really quiet on the motorway. That's where you notice it. So there's very little wind noise, very little road noise, and just gets on with driving. In terms of performance, this 87 kilowatt hour battery comes with a more powerful motor, so it has in effect 242 horsepower going through the front wheels and 300 newton meters of torque. That's a lot, basically, as for a front-wheel drive family cars, more than anybody needs. It means that the car feels effortlessly fast all of the time, and it's easy to drive. In fact, I would say it's better to drive than the likes of Volkswagen ID.4. The steering has a nicer weighting, the way the car moves with the road is very pleasant. It just makes for a nice car to drive. The only downside is that at times it feels a bit firm, and I wonder if that's something to do with these lovely 20-inch alloy wheels that we have here. Nissan quotes 529 kilometer range on a fully charged battery for this particular model. And I think most people would probably manage about 400 without trying too hard. I'm averaging 21.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in terms of consumption, and so at the moment with a 73% charged battery, it's showing a range of 325 kilometers. The thing that stands out on the road though is just how quiet, how refined it is. It's just a shame that the ride comfort isn't a little bit softer. Buyers could choose between two different battery sizes. There's a 63 kilowatt hour option with 402 kilometer range, and this is an 83 kilowatt hour battery, and the range is officially 529 kilometers. It's almost irrelevant that Nissan Ireland has sold out of its allocation of the Ariya for 2022. It's the same situation across the board. Across all of the electric SUVs at around €50,000 mark, you're going to be waiting months for them. Is this one worth waiting until next year for? Our opinion is that, yeah, it is. It's got a great interior, absolutely fantastic interior. It's spacious, it looks good, and it's got a decent range. It's definitely one to watch for 2023.